Today I'm going to show you how to change the belt on a Suzuki King Quad 700. This is a 2005 model. I'm going to show you how to do it and what tools you'll need. So stick around. Okay, first things first is trying to access this cover right here. So to do that, you have to take off this plastic floor pan, which is a few bolts there, and then each one of the fenders, you have to take those off, which I'm going to do that off camera. Simple tools. I've changed some bolts out, but the floor is like a 10 Phillips head screwdriver, and I have to use like a 12 millimeter, but your guys's are going to be a little different. Get right back to you. Now you can see I've got the footwell off, so there's 4 bolts that you got to take off of the remaining frame, because as you can see, it blocks the case from coming off. 10 mil here for your brake line. I'm not exactly sure what size those are, and I believe these are a 12 or a 13 underneath here. So once again, I'm just going to rip that off real quick and then take all of these 8 millimeter bolts out of the case, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, so I'm going to go ahead and do it off camera. But you kind of have to hold this down to get the case off, the cover off there. So I'll do all that, and then that's when I'll bring you guys back. Okay, as you can see, I've got the cover off. So now at this point, you'll see this cover right here. There's one at the bottom, one back here. Each one of those fingers has a 8 millimeter. You got to pull that off so we can get the belt on and off. So let me just tell you, the belt that's on here is still good. As you can see, it's just a cheaper Amazon belt, and I did not break it in properly, so I lost a ton of top speed. It just wore the belt out. I took this cover off once before, and it was just full of material. Like I said, I didn't properly break it in, and it was just a cheaper belt to start with. So this time I went with Dayco XTX. That's my size number right there. And it's a lot better of a belt. It was a lot more expensive. But let me get this tore apart and get to the next point, and then I'll bring you guys back in. Okay, once you get those 3 bolts off, you'll have this one right here, which you also have to take off. And I use an impact, so I don't have any issues. If you use a ratchet, it might spin on you. Be right back, gonna get that tore off. Alright, so once you get that off, you can, it's a little tight, so you have to kind of work it off. It's gonna be hard to do this one-handed. Let's see if I can, there it goes. Sorry, it's hard to do this and hold the camera. Let me get this off. Okay, so once you take that center bolt out and that bracket, this is just sitting here at this point. So what I'll do now is take one of the 3 bolts that came out of that cover right here, and you want to take them, and you can use 1 or 2, up to you. And so this is how you depress the clutch, so you can get the belt on and off. Let's see if we can find my little deal here. So what I do is I just kind of gradually go in. And so what that does is it loosens that up, so you have a lot of room to get the belt on and off. It makes it a lot easier. It'd be a lot easier to get this put back together. If you don't do that, you can, but it'll be really tight and a pain in the butt. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take this off without, I've already cleaned all this, so I don't need to inspect it. Just had all this apart not long ago. So slide that off. And I'm just going to push this back on. This is what your belt would ride on. And so we're just going to work this old belt off. And I mean, like I said, it looks like it's in okay shape, but I don't know if you can tell, but I, in a sense, burn it on the edges, so it doesn't really slip, but it, like I said, it wore off so much material, it changed the gearing, and I lost a ton of mile per hour. I was down about 20 mile per hour on top speed. So like I said, we're just going to switch that out, and we'll save that one for a backup spare. So let me grab this other one. So hard to hold this and do anything. Alright, what we're going to do is exactly like we took the other one off. We're going to feed that in there. Just feed it in there. Okay, so we got it pushed back on. And I'm going to do the same thing we did. Just going back on. So I'm putting the other part of the clutch back on. And then you'll go in reverse. You'll put this bracket back on, then the foot peg, then the footwell, and you know, the cover and everything. But what I like to do is get it all on here, and before I put the cover on, I start it, put it in gear forward and back, make sure that it actually is engaging properly, make sure there's no issues. So let me get this bracket put back on, and I'll bring you back once, and I'll back them bolts out. Okay, so now at this point, I've got my big bolt back in, but I did not tighten it yet because I'm using 2 of my bolts that attach this in here. So now at this step, now that won't come apart, I'm going to take these back out and then watch as I do this. Well, that belt's down in there, but what it did is it tightened back up on that belt. So now I'm going to put those 3 bolts back in, and then you're pretty much done. You're just putting covers back on. There is no adjustment, nothing like that you need to worry about. It all does its own thing. You just put those bolts back in, get that gasket on the cover set real good, and yeah, it shouldn't be bad. Okay, we're all back together. We got our bracket back on, belts in, all the bolts are tight. So before we put the cover on, I'm going to go ahead and start it and just make sure everything looks good. Just going to try reverse. Everything's working just like it should. So now just reverse order and put everything back together.